Hello and welcome to episode 7 of Christian's Political Talks. I am your host, Christian, and today we have two special guests. So our first guest is the president of the Legalise Cannabis Party and advocates to legalise cannabis. Now he is the #1 Legalise Cannabis Australia candidate for the Senate seats of New South Wales for the 2022 federal election, Mr. Michael Balderstone.
Hello, Christian. Yeah, well, thank you for this. And you want me to give you a few of my thoughts?
We'll introduce Gail first.
Oh, okay.
So yes, our second guest is a retired nurse and a full-time cannabis activist, and she is on the Senate ticket with Michael as the #2. She is Miss Gail Hester. So how are you both doing?
I'm good, thanks,
Good.
Christian. Yeah, it's good to
Very
be
good.
here.
So why don't you guys start off by telling us a bit about yourself?
Give you what happened then. Yeah, are you hearing me okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm hearing fine.
Tell us about
Yeah, well,
yourself,
I think-
Michael.
Yeah.
Well, both Gail and I have been medical cannabis users for a long time. I think Gail is president, am I right, of the Medical Cannabis Users Association? Possibly,
No,
how
I'm
many
the
members have
founding.
you got?
I'm the founding member, and I'm actually
You-
on the executive at the moment as the
Well,
treasurer.
you hold it together. She holds it together. How many members, Gail? How many members have you got?
Facebook group now approaching 20,000, mainly
Yeah.
Australians. There's been a few foreigners slipped through the process, but
Yeah.
it's an Australian group. It's basically started for Australians, so we could lobby the government to get cannabis legal, and then we ended up with this atrocious system that we have now. So now we're working, to try and legalise cannabis, so everyone can get it. The way it is now, it's not working for everyone. So yeah, I keep on advocating and keep on working and keep on chipping away.
Yeah. And same for me, Christian. So I'm president of Nimbin's Hemp Embassy, which has been, we've got a similar number of people on our mailing list. We talk to a lot of people. We were formerly the Hemp Party, and pretty much like Gail, it's swallowed my life for a long time, this cause, because once you wake up to how big the war on drugs is and the consequences of it, you realise it's just a business thing for people to make money out of pain relief, which is possibly the best business on the planet. If I can make you feel good, take your pain away, you'll give me the shirt off your back, So, in Prohibition, they've made nature's best pain relieving plants all illegal: cannabis, the coca plant, and the opium poppy. And 100 years ago, cannabis was in nearly all the medicines for pain relief. So it is just a business thing. And it kind of appalls me that Big Pharma spends so much energy lobbying in Canberra, lobbying every parliament around the world to convince them how dangerous cannabis is and we should keep it illegal, when it's never killed anyone in 10,000 years of recorded use. And in fact, as we now know, it's a fantastic, very safe medicine for a lot of ailments. So this is all about money, and in America, where they have legalized medical cannabis, you'll see the use of pharmaceuticals for some ailments has collapsed: depression, anxiety, common things like that, as well as, technical things like Parkinson's or epilepsy. So when I realized how bad it was, and me, I'm an old migraine sufferer, and PTSD, probably cause of everything, and cannabis was just a magic pill for me. Not really a pill, but it was so magic for me, and a lot of people discover that. So when that first happened to me like 50 years ago, and then you read up about the war on drugs and what's behind it, and it is so disgusting. Neither of the big parties, Labor or Liberal, want to talk about it. You watch, they won't even talk about it. I bet you can't get an interview with them on this subject because they're scared they'll be seen as going soft on drugs. The Greens have a good policy, but they won't talk about it much for the same reason, and it's way down their list of priorities. So our party is really a single issue party, particularly to focus on legalising cannabis. and particularly so we can grow our own medicine and be allowed to drive. And we're not allowed, you're not allowed to drive at all if you're using cannabis now, really. And I guess what I'm hoping is people will use their chance voting to mark one for legalise cannabis, to send a message to the government, and then I don't mind who they vote for. So we're not allocating preferences. We're just trying to get the issue on the agenda. What do you think, Gail?
Yep. A vote for us is not a wasted vote. That's my favourite line at the moment.
Yeah,
because you put us at number one, and because of the wonders of the preferencing system, if people want to vote Liberal, they can put Liberal at number two, but they put us at number one because that sends a message to the incoming government that, people support changing the cannabis laws. And that's what we want. That's what we're here for. We're not here to govern. We're here to change one law. And, if we manage to get somebody elected onto the crossbench, our concerns are the concerns of most Australians. It's the housing crisis, the health thing, the corruption, the climate change. We're on the same part as most Australians. We're worried about those issues too. And you will find that legalising cannabis finds a way into all of these areas, like the economy, for instance. The GST on personal use sales alone could build public housing. We could give a lot of people homes just from the GST on that. The health system could be improved. The amount of social users that we have in this country, billion-dollar industry, going to criminals and Asian gangs, people that are growing it just for profit, and they're paying no tax. So once it's legal, we're not saying we want it taxed out of the market or anything, but you put 10% GST on a low price, the government and the country is going to win in the end. The extra money.
Colorado has a population of about 5 million people, similar to Sydney. They've already made $1 billion in tax in less than 10 years, taxing their legal cannabis. And even bigger than money is the social consequences of cannabis being illegal, and the whole war on drugs for me are just huge. If they legalised cannabis, we would have way less of an ICE problem. Cannabis is the easy bust, and all the young people know that. People don't drive with it or use it now. They'll use other drugs they can get away with that aren't tested. They won't smoke pot. They'll use pills or powders, which are through your body quickly and don't get them caught in any
much harder on your health. Yeah,
much harder on your health. In fact, your body, because cannabis is fat soluble, your body hangs on to it, loves it, stores it in your body.
That's it.
That's why, me smoking
but it spits out
now,
the toxic. It spits out the toxic drugs a lot quicker. Yeah.
All the other drugs will quickly be thrown out of your body. But cannabis, this joint I'm smoking now, I can test positive driving in several days in my saliva for this. So, basically, I can't drive if I use cannabis. And in a blood test, I'm possible to be tested positive in 6 weeks or 2 months. So I don't think everyone realises how long your body keeps onto it.
Yeah.
So the health department, they've got that wrong in lots of ways.
The zero tolerance policy for medical users is totally ridiculous. Like, I heard a story last week from a lady who has Tourette's. And, if she doesn't take a medication, her body has uncontrollable jerks and tics, and it's impossible for her to drive. So she needs to keep her THC at a constant level. Now, she can't stop taking that so she can drive to the doctor or the supermarket or wherever the next day. She has to keep that level constant. Now, she goes out and she gets tested and she gets, loses a license. It's just ridiculous because she cannot drive without that THC in the system. You know, this is a
Very
medical
hard.
treatment. They don't
Yeah.
take you know, like I was talking to a guy with Parkinson's yesterday. They don't make people stop taking pharmaceutical drugs so they can drive. What's the difference? Cannabis is a prescribed medication, and these people need to keep their levels up, but they've got to make a choice between driving or, you know, having their condition under control. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. So
It's very hard to get heard because it's very emotive, you know, drug driving. You just say the words and people ooh, freak out. Half the nation is taking pharmaceutical pills every morning and driving.
Yep.
So the propaganda.
And people with chronic pain too, you know, they drive better when they're under the influence because it takes their pain away. They're not concentrating or distracted by their pain. They're concentrating on their driving. So it actually makes them a better driver if they've, you know, have it in their system, you know, they're not in pain. So, you know, they're safer on the road, you know.
Me driving with a migraine would be totally dangerous.
Absolutely.
It's absolutely ludicrous. You're right. Make sense to you, Christian?
yes, yes. So I'll ask the next question now. So how long have you been in the Legalise Cannabis Party?
Michael?
Well, today would be the 30th Mardi Gras, except we postponed it. We had a little one up the street of Nimbin for the people who didn't know it was postponed. It's been postponed till the middle of September. So that's 30 years. And I think the hemp party probably got formed a couple of years after that, might be 25 years old. I've been involved from the beginning. And Gail, I dare say, has been lobbying for medical cannabis just as long too.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a newbie compared to you. I've only been at it for like nearly a decade. So yeah, I'm a member of the hemp party, and then we went through the name change last year, and so I'm proud to be a member of that party. And I think the name says it all. It's what really needs to happen. Legalise Cannabis Australia.
So how did you guys end up becoming the candidates for the Senate seats in New South Wales?
People can nominate on our website. People can nominate. We've got like 7,000 members or something, and people can nominate if they want to run as a candidate or volunteer to help or make a donation. And Gail and I nominated, different people nominated. And, you know, it's interesting, the different Senate candidates across Australia, most of them will be serious medical users for a good reason. We've got one lawyer in Queensland who's, you know, he's seen the damage from the drug laws in court. But most of us are serious medical users. People who use cannabis regularly, it's a medicine. We've got a reason for using it. And not that many people want to put their hand up and say, yeah, I'm a criminal, you know, I smoke cannabis every day. Very few people. So, you know, we don't get flooded with people who want to be a candidate or want to put their hand up and say, yeah, I smoke weed, because you get targeted. It's easy for me coming from Nimbin. It's sort of expected of us.
So would you guys have any other main policies besides legalising cannabis?
No, we're really a single issue party.
Well, we're a single policy party, really, but that policy reaches into so many areas. You know, on our state-based website, we've got policy statements, and they talk about the impact on the health system, on human rights, on policing, on the economy, the environment, you know, all of those things. And cannabis and hemp reach into all of those areas. Now, when you look at hemp, for instance, we could get the hemp industry going, and we could encourage investment in value-added products like textiles, and we could get a hempcrete industry going. Well, that would build houses for the homeless. So it all works in, and you know, it's about a lot more than smoking pot. And a lot of people kind of look at you when you're in the street carrying a core flute enough to say, you know, it's only about smoking pot. But it's not. It's about getting cheaper products for people that are on prescribed products. The pathway, the legal pathway, is discriminatory, very discriminatory against people who have disabilities when you look at it, because it's the people with disabilities who are on DSP and other social security payments. They can't afford to pay for these products. Now, there needs to be some sort of subsidy by the government. And in the barriers inquiry in 2020, it was suggested, but the LNP put a red line through it. They said, no, we've already got the PBS, but they set the system up so that none of these products will end up on the PBS, because it's special assistance scheme and it's prescription only, and it's only the companies who can put these products on the PBS, but that's not until they've undergone gold standard trials. They've proved safety and efficacy beyond reasonable doubt in anyone's mind. Once the TGA registers a product, they then have to apply to the PBS for the subsidy. And Sativex, which has been a registered TGA product since I think about 2012 or 13, they've applied twice for the PBS and they've been refused twice. So, I in my groups, I see people saying, oh, the government's really got to put it on the PBS. But the government have set it up so it will never be on the PBS. So it's fruitless to even try and think about that. What we need is home grow. That's the way patients are going to get the access, affordable access. Like once it's legal, if I can't grow, if I'm disabled and, I have a son who's got a garden and he could grow a few plants, and the instructions for making tinctures and oil are all over YouTube. So it's not that hard. This is why we need home grow, because the people who need this most medically are not getting it. It's a postcode lottery, like Lucy Haslam said. It's exactly what it is. You live in the right postcode and make enough money, you can get your products, no problem, while the rest of us struggle. Very unfair.
You could name any area of life. You name any area of life, and I reckon we can relate to how legalising cannabis would impact on it in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Any area, Christian, you have a go. Tell us anything, anyone, any area of policy.
Well, so how is campaigning going so far?
It's a bit hard to campaign on a shoestring budget, but we're getting there.
We've got a bunch of posters and not many call flutes and a few volunteers. Like I said, not everyone wants to be out there waving a vote legalise cannabis banner, because it makes you a bit of a target. So
we're highly dependent on our social media, and our grassroots supporters. Like I've had people come to me and say, what can I do? Send me some posters. I want to get out there. And then you have other people kind of balking and, oh, well, I'd like to put a poster up, but, I don't want to be a target. So, there's support and there's covert support, and that's what we're relying on really, because there's a lot of people who want this to happen. And the only way that they can actually express that opinion is in the privacy of the ballot box. So if they put us at number 1 in this preferential system, the vote will probably end up with their favourite team. So like I said, I think I said before, if you normally vote Labor or you normally vote Greens, put us at number 1 in the Senate and put your favourite team second, because the preference will flow there. But because we get such a large amount of primary votes, that will send a message, and a big message. They need to wake up. They need to understand just how many people in this country use cannabis for, social reasons and for medical reasons. And the vote, they all vote. So if they can vote from the privacy of a ballot box, we don't know how this is going to turn out. This is really the first election where we've had the state parties formed, and we've had 4 out of 5 so far registered, and we had success in WA. We had 2 people elected to the upper house there for the Legalise West Australia Party. So we're coming at this from all angles. For years I've had people writing to MPs at state and federal level, and all we ever get back is, oh, that's a state issue. Write to your state person, or you write to your state person. Oh, that's a federal issue. That's that's all about the treaty, and they love to hide behind the treaty and whatever else they can hide behind. So we decided in 2020 in Queensland, we had some independents that wanted to run on a cannabis platform, and then somebody said, oh, why don't we start a party? And that was it. That it happened. We've registered the first party in probably a month, 6 weeks. We had 500 members. We were registered, and then we ran the election in October. So we're a presence now. We contested elections in Western Australia, South Australia in March. We actually got 2.1% of the vote in the state election in South Australia, which will entitle us to funding, apparently. New South Wales had to be registered a year before we can contest an election. We've got that done and dusted. Next one, we're working on Victoria, and hopefully they'll be registered. So we're coming at them from every angle. Sooner or later, they've got to, realise and start listening that the people want this.
Yeah, I think increasingly for a lot of people, it's a really serious issue, especially when you do discover what a great medicine it is for you. You're not allowed to drive, even if you do get it, and you're not allowed to grow your own. It's totally insidious. There's a lot of money in health. And if they legalise cannabis, we would save the health of the nation in a massive way, And I tell you what, we do a lot of good for climate change also.
If people were to grow cannabis in their backyard, cannabis is actually a food. First up, it's a food with medicinal properties. And if you incorporate raw cannabis as a juice or into your cooking, you're actually doing good things to prevent illness, because cannabis can prevent illness as well. Like Michael said, for years and years and years, it was a frontline therapy with the doctors until what I was talking to you about before, when they brought in those laws in the 1930s based on racist and corporate interests. The corporate interests have always been there.
Yes.
They don't like the competition medically or industrially.
It's really when the petrochemical and pharmaceutical industries arrived, everything changed, and it's made a big mess on the planet in lots of ways. And they're both things that have to change. Yep,
absolutely. The lies and the deceit that's gone on and still goes on. There's so much evidence out there now. Like, when I first started this in 2014, there were 20,000 articles on that American site where they what's it called, Michael? I've forgotten. Anyway, it's where they gather all the evidence together, and you can search for anything you want on studies that have been done and whatnot. Well, there was 20,000 articles on that site when I started this, nearly 10 years ago. So that would have increased tenfold, with all the places that are legalising and the research that's being done. They say, there's not enough evidence, go and have a look. I think you'll find there is.
So when it comes to the ballot paper, obviously there's 2 different choices on how to vote. You can vote above the line, where you can put 1 to 6, or below the line, which is 1 to 12. So how do you have any recommendations for people listening?
Well, most people tend to vote above the line because they want to get in there and get out. So we're recommending above the line, put us at number 1, and then 5 parties of your choice. Around a lot of the groups, we've done our research and we have made lists, and there's also a list on our website, legalise.org.au, that lets people know the parties that are on side and the parties that aren't. So we're saying, go to the website, have a look at that and make your own decision. Because, you know, a lot of these minor parties have got policies that, you know, sit well with some people, but don't sit well with others. And, you know, there are 9 parties on the Senate ticket that support legalisation. So you can pick 6 out of those without even, you know, putting the majors up there. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You know, there's plenty of choice. So we're leaving it up to the voters. And you know, like I said, if they want to put the Liberals at number 2, fair enough. But give us your vote first. Give us your vote first. That's what I was saying. Yeah. So yeah, and then with the preference system, the votes flow on, and the vote will end up where you wanted it to go in the first place. So you send a message and you vote for your favourite team.
So what do you have to say to the other candidates running for the Senate?
Well,
I think they
say,
should just
yeah.
vote 1, legalise cannabis first, just as to send a message to the government, and then vote for their party. That would be my advice.
I'd say to the candidates that are running in the Senate, what I'd say to them is best of luck. I hope the minor parties can all pull together and make a difference. I think it's going to be a very different election, and never before has the mood of the voting public been so against the 2-party system. So it's going to be very interesting. I'm making popcorn already.
So if anyone is interested in helping you guys out, like volunteering for your party, how do they go to volunteer?
The website again. We've got a volunteer sign up. They can make a donation. They can join our Facebook volunteers group. The website, legalise.org.au. Just register there as a volunteer, and your details will be sent to somebody in your state who actually keeps a spreadsheet of all of the volunteers so we can contact them. And the Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/legalise.volunteers. So we've got a pretty active group going on there. We're having a volunteer Zoom meeting next week. So that's up there ready to go. The link will go in on Wednesday. So anybody that wants to join that between now and then, they can jump on the Zoom and learn about how to be a good volunteer.
So when it comes to this, well, both the House of Reps and the Senate, obvious, like for the past, however long it's been, 100 years, it's always been the majority parties, the major parties. So at the moment, those major parties are the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. So generally, with how history has gone, one of those two will get majority for the Senate. So who would the Legalise Cannabis Party prefer formed a majority Senate?
Well, I don't know about Michael, but I know that the Liberals are full-on prohibitionists. They'll do everything they can to stop any legalisation. I think we've got a better chance with Labor, but that's just my personal opinion. You know, they don't really say that they're on side in any way, but when you look at the ACT, it was a Labor backbencher who put the bill forward that went through down there. So in my mind, you know, they're more on side than the Liberals. So for our best interest, for me, I would prefer to see Labor. But what I really would prefer to see is a very large crossbench full of independents and minor parties, because in my mind, that's a much better type of democracy than what we suffer under the 2-party preferred or none-preferred system. I don't know what you think, Michael. You'd like to?
Yeah, I'd be similar. I reckon that's a good rave. So and it's a Labor person who got the law changed in Canberra. I think that, like a lot of wars, it's the poor people who are copping it in this drug war.
Absolutely.
The jails are full of poor people. And the people who take all the risks with the drugs, if they want them, are the poor people. The rich people just sign up to a doctor. You're rich enough, you get a chauffeur to drive you around. But you know what I mean? It is always the poor people who cop it. In that case, that means the Labor Party, I think. Although sometimes I think they've just got a different coloured tie.
Yeah.
And they don't look that different.
Comes across that way, doesn't
I think we would generally prefer Labor. Yeah. But I think,
we don't tell
the
people how to
Greens
vote,
have yeah, and the Greens have the best cannabis policy, probably. Liberal Dems, there's a few people with a good cannabis policy, but we're not interested to tell people what to do. I think what you said it well before, Gail, we are really trying to get a message to the government. This is a priority for a lot of people. You just think in South Australia, they got 2%. 2% is a lot.
Yeah.
If we, have people who that's the most important thing in their life.
Well, there were 7 new parties
had
registered in South Australia for that election, and we were, 7th from the top. The number of people, the number of percentage that we got there, and we're pretty happy with that because that sends a message. That sends a message. We're here for the long haul. We're not giving up. So, you better give up and see it our way.
In that Eden Monaro by-election, and when Albo in his speech goes, I noticed the big, we took note of that large cannabis vote. Bullshit. He hasn't said boo since. And both the major parties are so scared of being seen to be soft on drugs. But if there's any chance of it changing, we've got a much better chance with an Albo government than ScoMo. Even though Jesus loved cannabis, ScoMo hasn't worked that out yet. Well, back in the day, your name is Christian. Back in the day, cannabis was known as God's gift through the East. It was used for everything. The word canvas comes from cannabis. It was a superfood for them. It made their cloth. It made their building materials.
Made their sails for their boats.
Yeah. They would laugh at the idea of being illegal.
Yeah.
Absolutely laugh at it.
It was an absolute
couldn't even
necessity.
conceive of the idea. Yeah. So the idea that of a Christian locking people up for using cannabis just shows me he's not a proper Christian. He doesn't get it.
He's what my mother used to call a Sunday Christian.
Yeah.
Wise woman, my mother.
Nice.
So do you guys have any other comments you'd like to say?
If I can jump in there, I'd just like to say that a vote for us is not a wasted vote. Do your homework, go to the other party websites, see what their policies are, and, just be careful because this new government is going to be around for a lot longer than some of the policies that people are voting against at this point in time. There is a lot of dissatisfaction with mandates and vax passports and all of that thing. Now, those issues will probably not be around, for the length of this government. So I would say choose carefully and do your homework and choose the parties that sit best with your goals and beliefs and values.
So what about you, Michael?
Yeah, it's good. Look, we're back to that prime message. It's not a wasted vote. It's a message to the government. Use your vote. You really get 2 votes. You get one to make a statement with legalise cannabis, and then another vote for who you want to be the prime minister. Ultimately, it's going to be about which party you want. So, and there's a lot of good independents. I'm with Gail. I want diversity. I'm sick. The local federal member for Nimbin, I'm actually in the Tweed electorate, but the local federal guy, Kevin Hogan, he's a National Party guy. I like him. He went to Casino Hospital. He's got mates who smoke weed. He can't say a word about it because he's a National Party guy.
Mm,
He doesn't have the freedom to have a voice. He just has to do what the party tells him. I don't want a government like that. That's why
No.
I love all these independents and small people getting up. So
minor
if
parties and
Gail and me, if we
independents.
get elected, Gail, we'll cause a riot down there with our ideas.
We'll walk in there with our suit and tie and
Yeah.
like Dr. Walker did over in Western Australia. I laughed at that story where he said the first day they walked into Parliament after the West Australian elections, everybody thought that they were going to be in rainbow coloured shirts and have dreadlocks. And they were all very shocked. The man's a doctor, you know, and
he's a doctor, very softly spoken. I think he's making quite an impression in the
and he is a really good
chambers.
orator, just, he's mesmerizing for me when I listen to him speak. You know?
I would agree.
So yes, we're hoping to repeat the success either again at state level or, you know, federal level. In one of the states, we can maybe pull it off.
Yeah. We'll get heard a bit anyway.
Yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, get heard.
Well, thanks for joining us today.
Christian.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us, Michael and Gail.
Thanks for having us.
So you can
Thanks, Christian, and good luck with it.
Yeah, so you can follow their party on Facebook at Legalise Cannabis Australia, and you can follow me on Facebook at Christian's Political Talks. Further details will also be in the description. So special thanks to everyone who tuned in to listen to today's episode, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.